If this was correct, then why do Christians hate Muslims and Muslims hate Christians if y'all worship the same God? Why do Israelites and Muslim go to war with each other if y'all worship the same God? The answer to that question is the fact that Muslims and Christians do not worship the same gods, and nor does the Jew, even though you didn't mention the Jewish. But neither of y'all worship the same God, and I'm going to break down the differences as to why. So when you actually start out with the first group, which would be the Jewish people believe that their God, Yahweh, who is a Canaanite storm deity, is the one and only God, one complete God, no other God beside that God, the highest God of all the gods, that is the God. And that in order to be a person in the culture of that God, you have to be Jewish. You have to worship the holy days. You have to do the sacrifices. You have to participate in all the rituals that pertain to that God. There are no other writings outside of what we Christians, let me clear that, what Christians, because I'm not a Christian anymore, would call the Old Testament. So therefore, the Jewish God is a different God. The difference between the Jewish God and the Christian God is that the Christian God is a God of three pieces, three parts, three entities: the Spirit, the God, and the Son. Although the John part in John, 1 John 5, that has now been changed, does not indicate that Trinity, but a Trinity that was created at the Council of Nicaea in 325 with the Creed of Nicaea. So the Christian God is a God that also encompasses the Jesus Messiah as a God. So the Jewish God and the Christian God are different. And the Christian God, you do not have to participate in all the high holy days and do the animal sacrifices, because the human blood sacrifice was your sacrifice of atonement. And so all the other rituals and laws that you are supposed to follow as a Jewish person, the Christian does not have to follow those based on mainstream Christian belief, although the New Testament does say that you are supposed to keep all the laws. You're not supposed to take one tittle from the laws of God. So therefore, the Christian God and the Jewish God are also different. Now, the Muslim God, Allah. Allah is the God who came and he talked to first. He talked to Muhammad and gave the writings to Muhammad that they are supposed to follow. Gave the hadith, many hadith, and you are supposed to follow things like Ramadan, and your works get you in there. You're supposed to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, throw the stones at the stone, and all these sorts of things, and pray to him a certain number of times a day, and all these sorts of things. That is a different God. And Allah says that he is one God. He is not a God of many parts. They recognize Jesus as a great teacher, but Isa is not part of God. He's just a great teacher that came in the way of God. So the Christian God is different than the Muslim God. Now, the Abrahamic God of the Jews favored Isaac and became the God of Isaac, Jacob, and so on and so forth. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and followed that line. And that is the people that Elion gave to Yahweh as his portion. As far as Allah, going back to Abraham, Allah is the God that he found Ishmael and his mother Hagar in the desert after Sarah and Abraham had kicked her out into the wilderness the second time. Found her the first time, told her to go back and be a good slave. Then the second time, made her an oasis, and from them came the 12 kings, and those 12 kings created the Arab nations, and the Arab nations went on and had Allah as their God, but didn't realize it until the 600 CE. So therefore, the God Yahweh, his chosen people, his portion was the Isaac portion, not the Ishmael portion. So therefore, the God of the Muslims is not the same God of the Jews. Hence, why the Jews and the Arabs, the Muslims, fight, why the Christians and the Muslims fight. But you would think that the Christians would not be so much on the side of the Israelites, but because of that belief of the chosen people and that Jesus came from the line of David, which that can only be patriarchal. So that means that Joseph was his daddy and not God. That since Jesus came from the line of David, which goes back to the line of Isaac, Jacob, and all of them, then therefore Christians will support Israel even when they're doing the heinous shit that they're doing in Palestine right now. And even though they know that those are people who adopted the religion, adopted the culture, that those aren't the people who were born into the religion, born into the culture, they still support them, because the political ramblings of the world today says that Israel is a better economic and military power for Christians to support than the Arabs. Plus, not that I like to throw it in there, but it's a matter of this versus this. This versus this. We know that most Muslims look like this. Most of the Ashkenazis look like this. So therefore, no. Our world is still scorched by the tyranny of racism. So therefore, your religion is more race-based than it is God-based. But hey, it started that way because Yahweh had his chosen portion of the Israelites and everybody else had to be genocided. So there's that part. So they do not worship the same God. That is just a political correctness on people who want to believe that they all worship the same God. At the end of the day, all these religions worship the God who created the universe. And that is a one constant that they all do share. There are a few other things, but that is the big one that they all share. So truthfully, since Brahma created all things, then Brahma, the Hindus, worship the same God. Since Ra created all things, then they worship the same God. Since Quetzalcoatl created all things, you worship the same God. It's all fantasy. It's all make-believe. Y'all have a great day. And realize that you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.